y'all. Welcome back to another Infinity Stone.
Yes, sir.
I am Brittany, and this is my boo
I'm
thing.
Dorian.
And today we are going to be talking about the reality stone. You got to learn how to love each other in different facets, assets, versions,
Dreads,
all
no
of the
dreads.
things. Right. So this is the perfect time to talk about the transformation and change that has happened between Bay and I. If you've been following us for a while, you know that we have gone through some changes. Okay,
Yeah.
we've gone through housing changes, with living in one space, getting evicted, living in 2, 3 other spaces since then.
Nomad life.
Yeah, being nomads with our kids, almost doing the RV life. Our daughter wouldn't allow that.
Right.
Cutting our locks, me combing mine out, and then my weight loss. So, knowing each other since we were 14 years old, we have seen each other go through every growth, every
Yeah.
transformation, all of the things. We've
Mind, body,
literally,
spirit.
right, we've grown up together. And I think that the biggest takeaway throughout all of our transformations that kind of keeps me going in our relationship is knowing that we have created a safe space for each other, which we talked about in the last Power Stone. But we created a safe space for each other to actually grow and to actually become the best versions of ourselves,
Yeah.
even if that meant that we would have to go through the trenches with one another. So when I got my surgery, that was the first time that I had to be immobile. And I was slightly immobile after we had my daughter because I had to be on bed rest. Like
Yeah.
she took it out of me. I had to go back to the hospital because I had postpartum preeclampsia. So I was immobile, but I wasn't. I needed assistance. Not with surgery. I needed more than assistance. I needed
Yeah.
my husband to do a lot of things. And what's crazy is he also got a vasectomy. So we couldn't lift, which our daughter needed to be picked up because she was a toddler. It was a lot. Like we had to get water, about like little things that you wouldn't think about. We needed to depend on each other. And through all of those changes, through the eviction, through the body transformations, through our identity transformations with getting rid of our locks, we had to give each other a lot of grace. We had to really learn how to love each other and not be married to the exterior
Yeah.
versions of us. We had to learn how to love each other's hearts. We had to learn how to love each other's soul. We had to learn how to, a saying that we have is look past the straw. Like it's not just about what you can see. The reality is not what you see. And I'll let you get into detail
Uh,
about your lie identity, but we had to undo that society norm of, oh, you have to like the way your partner looks.
yeah.
No, because I was 274 pounds and I became, after, VSG surgery, lots of going to the gym, lots of eating correctly, lots of mental healing, emotional trauma healing, childhood trauma healing. I went down to my lowest of 130 pounds.
Yeah.
So he was with me through all of that. He was with me through every stripping, every moment where I, had a fat phobia moment or a body dysmorphia moment. Like he was there and he got to see literally every pound come off, every
Bro.
moment of every tear, every second guessing. He had to lift me up through all of those stages.
Yeah.
And it was a lot. You're
It was
such
a
a good
lot, but
man.
it was worth it.
You're
From
such a
the
good man.
from the moment I saw her, I will say that she's always been different to me. If you've been around, you've heard the stories of how I thought that she was in the wrong class the first time I
Mm-hmm.
saw her because I just thought she was an upperclassman. She's always carried herself with a little bit more poise than most people that I had came in contact with, especially at 14 years old. Um, so I had fell in love with, I guess, your representation, your aura, your spirit, all of those things before she smiled. And then she smiled, it was over. I'm like, bro, she got them. Oh, take me, take me, Jesus. So yeah, this was nothing. It wasn't like I had to second guess myself. Now, okay, I got to be honest and say,
Don't make me hit you on camera.
is this what I really wanted? I had to have those hard conversations, as most of us will
Mm-hmm.
throughout your relationship. But the pros always outweigh the cons. It always did, because it was like the cons can always be, those are just learned behaviors.
Right.
That's not something that's like a part of who she naturally
That could be
is.
changed.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I've always just been in love with what she's represented, because that is just, that's so deep. She came to this earth with those like embedded in her.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nothing for me to, undergo this process with her, because I wanted to step into her world. Me being the man that I am, I like to get very forensic with things.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, they called me Puzzle Man because I was always trying to take things apart and put it back together.
Mm-hmm.
So was she. So it kind of matched up. Like, she was always like trying to pick out the problem child and fix them and put them back together. I was her problem boyfriend, and eventually became the
Child.
problem husband to turn hoe into a house husband.
Man,
So,
you were a project.
right.
But I love
So
it here though.
say we both love it here. Like,
It's
we
so
chose this life
fabulous.
because we realized this is who we naturally are, and we're
Mm-hmm.
gravitated to that type of individual. So nah, baby, it's always been more than surface when it came to me. As
Always.
long as you
Cause you
keep the
fine though.
dimples, like,
You fine though. It's the smile for me.
it's the smile.
Don't do that. So the reality stone is important because I think a lot of times we literally marry somebody because of what they bring to the table.
Mm,
And when you remove the expectation of what you want your partner to be, what you want them to kind of stick and look like, because not gonna lie, all women, when you're happily married, we all gain happy weight.
right.
Sometimes that happy weight is 10 pounds, sometimes it's 25 pounds, sometimes it's all of 100 pounds. And if you get married to the identity of your partner, the exterior, then you don't really create room for that person to grow because you've married the idea of them, this
Yeah.
idealized image that you've put out there about who you want them to be. And you don't give them room to become something else, to become the better version of themselves, because now they have you as the other piece of their puzzle,
Right.
that other map guide, that legend that they needed, to kind of help them navigate through their life story. And I think that, for us, and we're feng shui people, even individually, like way before we got married, way before we started dating, we were the kids that changed around our room like every week, every month.
Yep.
Like when you walked into our room, it was never the same. And then when we got married, we literally changed around like every place we've lived in, whether it was with our parents, with somebody else, or in an apartment. We change around our space so much. So do our kids,
Yeah.
because we don't get married to the idea of something staying the same. And that in itself is hilarious because I'm not a change person. I don't like change, or I didn't like change. I didn't like the unknown side of change happening. And it always created this anxiety in me like, no, things have to stay the same because I've created comfort in them. And marrying somebody who's like, no, I want to go to LA. No, I want to live in New York. No, time out.
Right.
So let's pick a place where we can still be by our family
New
just in
month,
case
new
they
place.
pass. Right. Like just in case they pass, let's be close. And he's like, so no, I want to explore my story. I want to explore who I am. And in in him exploring who he wanted to be and who he was becoming, I had to decide whether I wanted to embrace that change and embrace his ever changing identity, his ever changing, concept of what life was. And that created this transformation kind of potion for me because then it became easy to change. It became easy to comprehend that he is going to forever be a new person. He's going to shed his old ways. He's going to shed his old mindset. So I have to also shed my own way of thinking. I have to shed my comfort zone and my comfortability in seasons of my life because we're going to
Yeah.
change.
And I'm
You're
sorry for
going to
putting that
grow.
unknown pressure on you. I never,
It's not unknown
like,
pressure. You can't not be who you are on account of me not being comfortable with who I was. You were comfortable with who you were, and in the process of you, rediscovering yourself as a husband and as a father, it helped me be okay with the identity of change.
mm,
Because when I met you, you were like, "No, I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to LA. I'm going to do music and graphics on the side. Like I know what I'm doing with myself.
yeah.
What are you doing?" And it's like I kind of wanted to be a family. Like I wanted to go to a small town and kind of be in a suburb. Like
Yeah.
I'm from New York. I don't need people. I don't need the big. I already got that experience growing up. So I'm cool with just chilling, just
Mm.
being about us, being close to family. This guy, no. I want the lights. I never been a city boy. I never got to do all the things and explore. I grew up in Georgia,
Yeah.
with trees and grass. It's like, oh, so
Yeah.
you want change, like frequently. You want to go to a place that is constantly changing. And it took me a really long time to embrace the concept of LA.
Mm.
And it took me even longer to like want to call LA home. But it wasn't until maybe like 2, 3 years ago where I was like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And that all
That was a
in,
switch.
yeah, that all in came from when we had the opportunity to go to Disney. Um, and that quick story, I was in the shower in our last apartment, and I was like, I had this whole like kind of daydream while I was in the shower, and I got out and we recorded it. We have proof of it. I recorded it on a voice note. I was like, I have to record this because when it happens, nobody's gonna believe me,
Right.
and I have to record it live so people can know I wasn't playing. So it's time, date stamped, and everything. And in that conversation, it was like, we're gonna get an email, and we're going to get an email from a brand, that we've already worked with. That's like, hey, we're going to fly you out so you guys can come to LA. And I was like, it would be crazy if it was Disney. We've never worked with Disney, but let's just see where this takes us.
Yeah.
Surely enough,
it happened.
It happened. We were sitting on the floor, not even in the same apartment because we had gotten evicted at that point.
Yeah.
And when we were in the apartment, we'd already gone to Essence. We've already been to New Orleans, so we already got on a plane. We've already gotten the new jitters out as a couple, never flying together and all that.
Yeah.
So we get to the point where we get this email to go to LA, and I'm like, oh, and I see the email first because I'm the communication girl. I see the email and I'm like, babe, it's happening. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, it's here, it's happening, it's happening. And he reads the email, and it was in that moment that I realized, like, change is okay. It's safe. What he said is really happening. Like, he's been manifesting LA since we were in high school. And I'm like, boy, if you trying to be with me, I'm not going to LA. I'm going back home to New York. I'm going to the concrete jungle. I can't do LA. They're too chill. They're too relaxed. I'm rah-rah. I'm from New York. Like, we want hustle and bustle. We want that quick, give me a bev. Like, we want our drinks now. We don't want to wait. We're not lollygagging. And he wanted that slow pace kind of LA. And it took me changing and healing and stripping that reality of what I wanted my life to look like, as a wife and a mom. I wanted slow pace, but I wanted to be in New York comfortable pace, because I was comfortable with that pace. To me, that was slow because I was used to it. For him, that would be too fast. Especially not being in a bigger city, it was like that's a little bit.
That would have been a culture shock.
It would have been a culture shock, and just embracing a new reality, embracing the changes that came from that reality. It helped so much in our marriage because now, I went from being like, if he's like, babe, jump, I'm like, how high, how far, how long, like, is it safe if I jump, am I gonna land safely? And now it's like, babe, jump, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Choop.
I used to have to write an essay on why
Nah.
she should jump.
Nah. It's like, oh, okay. And it just took, my mom has this thing called stepping away from the canvas. It took me stepping away from the canvas that I painted about the reality of our life before I realized, like, I gotta step away. I gotta let this play out because the reality of what is unfolding was so much better than the reality that I created. And when you allow your marriage to go through that reality check and that reality shift, that's when the magic happens. That's when you start to have this fun relationship because you stop putting so much pressure on how it's supposed to turn out. You stop putting so much pressure on how your partner is supposed to look, how your relationship is supposed to look to other people. Let it look messy. Let it look ghetto. Let it look like it's evolving because that's when true stories happen. That's when authenticity is created.
Right.
That's when the magic happens because now you're in a space where you guys are submitting to the process. You're submitting to the change. You're submitting to what you guys could be together rather than, well, this is the idea that I have for our relationship. So we have to do everything to make sure we become that. But then you don't leave room for magic. You don't leave room for God's source, a la Buddha, to kind of bless you with a new beginning, bless you with a, shift and turn of events, bless you with a new climax.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to surrender. And I think that's what the reality stone is all about. It's just surrendering to the possibility of something new.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is very eloquent of you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I took over that whole conversation, but this is my favorite stone. The reality stone was my favorite because we've gone through so many transformation changes, and just to sit back and go through the highlight reel of
Yeah.
our life, like from 14 to 33. It's like,
Yeah.
woo,
It's
we've
hard
lived a
to
lot of
unpack
realities. Yeah, it's
all in
like,
one episode, but yeah.
yeah, our
Um.
movie's gonna be fabulous, y'all.
Oh, right.
It's gonna have to be a series.
It's gonna have to be like a
Have
Game
to
of
be.
Thrones type series
Yes, it's
because you
gonna
can't.
have to be because woo, there are some eras of our life where I'm like,
Yeah, we got to unpack that.
we did a lot. We had
Right.
fun, and sometimes we didn't.
Yeah, it hasn't always been peaches and cream.
But it's
Yeah.
been fun.
Right.
After.
It's been a lot of unconventional, a whole lot of unconventional, and I can only imagine from our kids' perspective how they're viewing this life. We tell them all the time, look, you're writing your own story,
Right,
and we realize that right now we're kind of the author of their lives, and we allow them to kind of scribble and dabble on the side.
right,
But at the end of the day, y'all, we're all writing our own story,
right.
and it's up to you to um, write that next page, and you have control of that next page. Don't
Right.
think that it's already written for you. A lot of people, a lot of religion, a lot of conditioning is going to tell you that things
Yeah.
are already written. You have the opportunity to pick up that pen for yourself,
Right.
and again, it's going to look unconventional because it goes
Right.
against the social norm,
Right.
but you're going to have so much more satisfaction knowing that you are able to make your own mistakes, and then to
Yes.
have a partner that understands that with you, to allow you that space to make your own mistakes.
Yeah.
You give them space to make their own mistakes. It's like we're figuring this thing out together,
Yeah.
and other people are going to be like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. What matters is what matters to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reality y'all create together.
Right.
That's just the most important thing. Y'all have to create a reality together, because he created a reality that just had him in it. That vision just had him going to LA. It had him creating a career and a name for himself.
Yeah.
And now he traded in that solo vision, that solo reality for, oh no, this is our story. This is our reality. This is our, life being out there. It's not just about me on social media anymore. It's about us. It's about our kids. It's about what we do now. They're going to receive that ricochet. They're going to receive that residue of what we do now. And I think that when you start to consider the possible realities that come off of one reality, it makes you kind of open to change. It makes you open to growth. It makes you open to receiving that things are not going to be the same because they're not supposed to be.
Right.
We are humans evolving. This world is ever changing. Your healing journey is ever going. You can't just stay stagnant. When you stay stagnant, you stop your story.
Right.
You stop your legacy. It's not about how many businesses you can create, how many homes you can leave, how many real estate investments you can have, how much money in bank accounts and trust funds you can grow and create. It's about the story that you're telling. And at any point when you stop telling your story, that's when your legacy dies. Period. Because the legacy is you. The legacy is what you do. The things that are attached to you are just physical receipts for people to say, oh, I can identify this person with this thing. But they can't identify the thing unless there's a person attached to it.
Right.
You have to tell your story. You have to live your reality. And that reality has to embody change. It has to embody growth. And that growth happens with you, but also happens with your partner.
Yeah.
So, your homework that I'm giving you is to sit down and write a reality and leave room. Don't write your vision statement, your, New Year's resolution so detailed. I know the TikTokers and the influencer girlies and guys want to tell you, be specific when you write down your manifestations. Don't do that, because you don't leave room for change. You don't leave room for reality checks. You don't leave room for transformation. So tell your story vaguely. These are the things that I expect, because right now it's not about you getting those things. We'll talk about that in another video.
Right.
But it's not about you getting those things. It's about the feeling. You're trying to feel the feeling. So focus on writing your reality with the feelings you want to feel. If success is what you want to feel, write that reality with, I want to feel successful. Don't say, I want to be the CEO of my company, or I want to work my way up to being the exec. Because what if source is like, no, you're not going to be there. You're actually going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You're actually going to be an entrepreneur with your wife, and you are going to start a brand that you never thought that you could create, because you just wanted to be a musician. But if you wanted to stop your legacy as a musician, it stops there. Your story stops there, because that's all you created room for. make the room bigger,
Yeah.
make the magic more, accepting, make that room for anything else that can happen in transforming your reality, because you may be surprised with where your life leads,
Yeah.
where your story goes, because you've left room for it. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Girl, you gonna make me shed a
I'm
tear. You're
just
doing
saying,
so
like,
well.
when I've released that reality that I had to write it, that I had to be the one to be successful, that I had to be the one to do da 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 da, and
Yeah.
I released that independent Black woman mindset. I'm like, babe, you lead.
Yeah.
My life looks so different.
Shit.
I was able to go to LA twice,
You feel me?
paid in full twice.
I thought I was gonna
Um,
go off a rap career.
you know,
Here I am. I actually find more satisfaction sharing this with you, being able to take my children. Like the fact that now other people are involved to share that with me. I never would have wrote that in my story individually because I
right,
was so selfish. Now she's helped me, expound my heart where I'm coming from this selfless perspective.
yeah,
And it brings me so much more joy knowing that, they can write their story with more information from experience in the universe.
right,
It's like, man, but like she said, the universe communicates in feeling and not
right,
words. Like words are fickle. That's why we have so many different languages. You can say one thing and your intention means something completely different.
right.
So write down that intention of, like she said, if your success is just feeling like the CEO, it's like, say, I want to feel like at the top of um,
Career,
my
yeah,
career, my endeavor, whatever the case may be, and
yeah,
you'll be surprised because what naturally happens is exactly what you were looking for out of what you were
correct.
trying to express three
And not
years
the
ago.
thing. It
Right.
was the feeling. Sometimes we want to be in a relationship, and it's not necessarily we want a partner, but we want the feeling of being seen. We want the feeling of being loved. We want the feeling of being protected. We want that loyalty.
Right.
And sometimes that's just you getting a dog. Like,
Whole time.
whole time, there's this trend going on like, oh, I needed a hug, but instead I moved halfway across the country. Sometimes it just took you needing that hug. Sometimes it took you moving across the country, but you just wanted that feeling of different. You wanted that feeling of acceptance. You wanted that feeling of grounding. And you have to get to a space where you start asking for that feeling. You start channeling and being in alignment with the feeling and not the thing. And that takes you reconstructing your reality expectations. You just want the reality of feeling.
Yeah.
That's your reality check for today. You just want the reality of feeling. That thing could be anything, but focus on that reality of feeling. If you want your marriage to feel like home, if you want it to feel like peace, then make an effort to create that peace. Make an effort to build a reality off of peace and not off of, oh, I want to be like that couple. I want to go on trips. I want to spend money.
Yeah.
I want to have a booming career. You want love and peace. You want to
Right.
be seen and heard in your marriage. You want to feel something more than what you're feeling right now. And that just takes you doing a reality shift.
Yep.
That's it.
Find that feeling. And for those of y'all that like to take it forensic like I do, um, here's the exercise for you as well. If you're gonna journal those feelings or whatever the case may be,
Mm-hmm.
um, read it right before you go to sleep. That last hour before you go to sleep is what you're going to not only dream about, but those feelings are going to be transmutated into tomorrow's experience in
Mm-hmm.
some type of way. And sometimes it's going to look like a test. Like there
Right.
have been times where me and her have meditated, felt the highest of our feelings, felt gratitude, all the success feelings, and then the next day be shitty.
Yep.
I'm sorry that I'm using that language,
Man, it's
but
the truth though.
what it is a reality check from the universe. Is actually, or God, source, Allah, Krishna, whatever there's a higher being. Okay. At
Right.
the end of the day, we all have
Right.
to agree that there's a higher being. Let's not get caught up on semantics.
Right. There's an environmental response.
There is an environmental response that will
Mm-hmm.
happen from you sending out that feeling.
Right.
It's literally a universal law. We do not have to get into it. You don't have to believe in it. You
Right.
don't have to believe air is real until you feel it, right?
Right.
That's what I'm talking about right now. So when tomorrow, because tonight you're going to do it, you're going to feel those feelings, and
Yes.
tomorrow you're going to be met with some type of environmental response. Know that that is the response. Dial into the feeling again that you had meditated on, and know that you are being met with a response. So it is your duty to respond and not to react.
Right.
How you respond will continue the blocks, the domino blocks of
Right.
that feeling actually becoming a 3D
Right.
reality,
Right.
if
And
that makes sense.
it'll get you further and further. The more that you react rather than respond, it'll get you further and further from that goal that you're trying to accomplish, from that reality that you're trying to lock into. So don't get slipped up on the pebbles.
My ears are
Don't
ringing.
get slipped up. See? Don't get slipped up on the pebbles. You know, keep going. Keep moving towards that reality, because that reality that you're looking for is a feeling.
Yep.
It's not a thing. It's a feeling. It's not the and ooh, this is something that we discussed. Our thing has been enjoying the journey. It's not the destination.
Yeah.
We're not excited to go to LA, but we are excited to finally make it to LA for many reasons. But we're excited about the reality and the journey that's leading us to LA, because everything that we're building, like this series along the way to LA, is going to make finally getting to that destination hit so much harder.
It's called the Bridget incident.
Yes, because we've worked really hard and we've had fun along the way, but we've learned things, we've healed, we've grown, we've restructured. So much has happened along the journey that the destination is going to be like, oh, we've already been here.
Right.
This is not new. We're grateful, but it's like we've been harnessing and channeling this feeling and this reality this whole time. So now that we're here, it's like, bet, let's get to work.
Right.
Like, it's time, you know. Yvette, what's up? Like, Tab, Auntie Tab, what's up? Like, we're here now, and now it's time to just be. Now you're not auditioning for the destination, but you're just existing in it. Now that's your reality. Now you're not faking the funk. Now you're really living it. You're really experiencing that reality, because you've already channeled and manifested and lived with that feeling. So yeah, do your homework. Do your homework.
That's on that.
That's on that. We love y'all. See you for the next episode.